Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. My name is Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, wildcatter.
That's a thing, right? Isn't that like something that involves oil?
Yeah, I'm a newfound oil baron.
Are you like Daniel Day-Lewis?
Since our last season, I've become an oil baron, everybody.
Sounds like a Batman villain, actually.
Yeah, that's
the wildcatter.
Yeah, the wildcatter. So
Yeah.
well, maybe you can finance our podcast now with your oil riches.
Yeah, we got great sponsors like insert here.
Yeah. Yes, this is the beginning. It's sort of the beginning of our third season. We had a bit of a sneak preview in our last episode when we talked about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and revealed that we are talking about the films of 1989 in this season.
Well, Josh, Christmas Vacation, that was really for mirth and merriment.
And we had a lot of that.
Yeah, so now we're down to business.
We are down to business.
There will be no more merriment, everybody.
No merriment at all.
If you're looking for merriment, the time is over.
So, as we have in our previous season, we are kicking off with the number one movie at the box office, which is Tim Burton's Batman. It was number one at the box office, we should say, in North America. We have kind of gone back and forth between that and the worldwide number one on our episodes, and the number one worldwide was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Batman was number two worldwide, number one in North America.
Yeah, both viable, valuable choices.
Yeah, both massively popular movies and movies that had a lot of impact over time. Although I would say maybe this one had more, just because Last Crusade was the third Indiana Jones movie, and that kind of had already had an impact.
Yeah, but that was the last good Indiana Jones movie.
That is true.
And this was the first good Batman movie.
Yeah, maybe. There was a Batman. Yeah, the TV series also, there was a movie of it that was kind of fun. So Batman was a huge hit. It grossed $411.5 million worldwide. Again, number one in North America, number two worldwide. It set box office records at the time for opening weekend, for second weekend, and for the fastest to $100 million. And it was just a massive pop culture sensation. It was everywhere.
Yeah, besides that, it had made, before it even came out, like $725 million or $750 million in merchandise before the film was even released. So.
Yeah, the merchandising for this movie was bigger than the movie. I mean, the people's wearing Batman hats, and it was just like a fashion thing almost.
Right, it was. 60 million tickets sold, 150 million in home video sales afterwards. So it has, it was on TNT the other night. So the shelf life rolls on, baby.
Yeah, it definitely has provided a lot of value for Warner Brothers over time. It also won an Oscar for Best Art Direction, which I think was a well-deserved win. Even if you are maybe not into other aspects of the movie, I think the art direction, you can't argue, is pretty amazing.
I think it deserved that.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to say is we mentioned Last Crusade.
Yes.
This Last Crusade and Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
Or Back to I think those three, they were all released week after week after week.
Yeah. Wow.
What a blockbuster summer that was.
Quite a summer
right?
of 1989. Yes.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor, Musical or Comedy, which shows that even in 1989, the Golden Globe categories were meaningless. He did not win, however. It was a sensation among audiences. It got an A from CinemaScore, which is the audience polling service, and that's pretty good. More than pretty good. I think even movies that are well liked don't necessarily get a grade that high. People always nitpick things, so that's pretty impressive. Critically, I think the reaction was a little mixed, although maybe mixed to positive, I guess we can say. Old Siskel and Ebert split on it. Siskel gave it a thumbs up, and Ebert gave it a thumbs down. So,
did he say, "Now, Gene"?
He probably did. I watched it yesterday, but he did praise the art direction. So, what Ebert?
Did you mention the art directors who won, Josh?
Oh, sorry, it's Anton Furst was the art director, and is there another name there?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Peter Young.
Okay, yeah, Anton Furst was the one that Burton had wanted to work with
right
before. and was able to get for this film, and they work very, very well together. So yeah, amazing art direction in this movie. And Ebert said, the Gotham City created in Batman is one of the most distinctive and atmospheric places I've seen in the movies. It's a shame something more memorable doesn't happen there. Batman is a triumph of design over story, style over substance, a great looking movie with a plot you can't care much about. All of the big moments in the movie are pounded home with ear shattering sound effects and a jackhammer cutting style, but that just serves to underline the movie's problem, which is a curious lack of suspense and intrinsic interest.
Yeah, a fair review, although I would say all of those ear pounding, eye popping moments are memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's almost funny to read something like this now.
Oh yeah,
where we look back at this movie and it seems almost quaint,
right, and quiet, and
yeah,
everything.
exactly. And the action is pretty subdued, and I mean, you never really think of Tim Burton as an action director anyway.
Right. This definitely, and I think that is, having watched it recently.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Dave, did you watch it recently?
No, I can't say I did.
Cool.
All right.
But yeah, that was one thing that I kept thinking is like, man, I wanted more sizzle on those action sequences.
Right. Yeah, the action sequences are a little underwhelming, even just the fights between characters, or when Batman is beating up some thugs or whatever. It's not really that.
Yeah, the car
thrilling.
chase could have been
Right.
enhanced. So.
Yeah. That's fair. But yeah, it was interesting. I'm watching them, also Siskel and Ebert, watching them discuss it. One of the reasons that Siskel says that he likes this movie is because it's not a sequel. You know, he's fed up with all the sequels in 1989, and you know, good thing he's not around to see what we have now.
And Ebert as well, for all the ear tingling, eye popping effects of today.
Right. I mean, Ebert, obviously he lived a lot longer and got a lot closer to what we have now, but yeah, it is sort of funny to see those complaints now and how much worse it's gotten. Other people were more positive, let's say. Hal Hinson in the Washington Post said, these heroes are our metaphorical selves, colorful externalizations of our psychological conflicts, and therefore at times overwhelmingly potent. There are pop archetypes, and Burton applies a flamboyant showmanship to bring them to life. The adversary's final danse macabre, or as the Joker calls it, the big duckaroo, is an electrifying bit of movie making. Your emotions are plugged right into it in a way they seldom are in movies like this. But then again, there haven't been many movies like this. In some ways, it's a masterpiece of pulp, the work of a true artist.
It's fun reading about the sequence he's talking about, right? Which is where they go up to the tower, the church tower.
Which is, I mean, I love this movie. In case we haven't said, this is one of my favorite movies ever made. And that sequence is a little underwhelming.
I mean, even Tim Burton, because like I think it was one of the producers, John Peters or whoever, was like, yeah, we're gonna go up to the tower, and then the Joker will, be there with Vicky Vale, and Batman will have to come, and like Jack Nicholson, as they were filming it, would be like, why am I walking up the stairs? Where am I going? And Tim Burton would say like, we'll talk about it when you get there, because even he didn't know, so
right.
I mean, it's fine, but man, it could have been a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, this is a movie where the script is, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like there's a lot of great dialogue in this movie, but on the other hand, like plot construction wise, the script is a bit weak. And I think the style and the performances and the direction and all of that holds it together. But yeah, it's not a movie that, it's something that they were rewriting as they were shooting, which is not uncommon for big blockbusters even now. It happened during a Writers Guild strike, so the original writer wasn't able to come back and work on
that's
the rewrites.
A big thing, I think.
Yeah,
it's what's his name? Hamm.
Sam Hamm.
Sam Hamm,
unfortunately named Sam Hamm. Yeah, he wasn't able to participate during the production, and they had a different writer who I don't know was not in the Writers Guild.
Yeah, they probably
had
a few different writers.
Yeah, one other writer who's actually credited, who's Warren Skaaren, is the other credited writer here.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I can absolutely acknowledge that. And that is a funny story about Nicholson saying, why are we going up the stairs? And Burton not knowing. But I feel like a lot of Burton movies are built on that style and the energy and the momentum. And it's bad, I think, in a lot of his later movies, but I think it works here.
I think this gets away with it because of the spectacle of the whole thing. But I mean, I think it's a totally fair criticism to be like, what are you doing? Why are you going there? And he's like,
It is. It is. And Carrie Rickey in the Philadelphia Inquirer said Burton aims for something more. While showing us the monolithic shape of dread and making us touch that grody texture of corruption, he means to amuse us with the insight that do-gooders are pessimistic because their job is never done, and that evildoers are optimistic because there's so much bad left to be done. His is a refreshing slant on that old good versus evil balance. I do think the sort of characterization of the Joker and Batman in this movie almost flips what you would expect, and the idea that it might have been elsewhere in her review or some other review I read that said that the Joker is essentially the main character of the movie and Batman is his foil. And I think that's kind of true. Not that Batman isn't as important in the movie, but I do like the way that is set up.
Well, we kind of see that with every iteration of the Joker since, too.
We
right?
have seen that. Yeah, he kind of takes over whenever he shows up, to the point, now where he's just got his own movie without Batman.
Especially in the film
Joker. Yes. He's quite the important presence in that film.
I would say he's the main character.
I mean, okay, I'll give you that. So did you see this movie at the time with all the hype?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters. My brother reminded me, I knew I saw it in theaters, but he remembered, my brother, who's a few years younger than me, he's like, our parents took us and we went with some family friends, but I haven't really seen it since, I don't think.
Yeah, so since you were like 10 years or
maybe I used
old?
to watch it on TV, but going back and watching this, I'm actually way more interested to see Batman Returns again, which I think, as a youngster, maybe I didn't get as much appreciation out of as I probably would now.
Right.
As many regard as the best of those first four.
That's true. Yeah. And I haven't seen Batman Returns in a while, which is weird because, as I said, I love this movie. Like, this is one of my favorite movies ever. I don't have specific memories of seeing it in the theater, although I'm guessing I probably did. I remember seeing newspaper ads for it, like we were saying, the whole marketing aspect of it. But I definitely saw it, if not in the theater, right around that time, on VHS or something like that. And then many, many times over the years afterwards, including on TV, and is the kind of movie that you would put on and watch, 10 minutes in the middle or whatever. And I was a big, big Tim Burton fan for many, many years. All his early, the first, 8 or 9 movies or something that he made.
He had one of those Rob Reiner type decades where it was just bam, 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 bam.
And then he directed the remake of North, and what was he doing?
Well, North Scissorhands was a very strange choice, but
yeah. So I loved this movie, and I was a comic book fan, but I was not a comic book fan when this movie came out. I didn't start reading comics until a few years later, and didn't start reading Batman comics until definitely a while after I had seen this movie. So it was really this movie that made me have any interest in Batman.
And did you like the old series, the six? They used to play it on TV all the
right,
time.
Yeah, and I think I remember watching that on Nick at Night or something, and
I did kind of fun and campy.
Yeah, the Adam West thing. I feel like that has maybe gotten more respect in recent years. Especially sort of towards the end of Adam West's life, and as Batman became this constant pop culture presence, he was able to get some credit for that. Yeah, I thought that show was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously it's very different from this, and part of the reason, or part of the motivation for making this movie, was to contrast with that campy show. But yeah, I liked it. Did you watch it as a kid at all?
And again, I mentioned my brother Max. I know he used to watch it a lot, after school. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. So I think, do we have any other statistics? I know you like the statistics.
Oh, I love the stats. No, just some, the budget started at 30 million and ballooned up to 48, they say. Which doesn't really matter.
No, I mean, when they made 411 million, I think they were pretty happy with that overall.
The bat suit cost $250,000, just, prototypes and everything. So, they weren't cutting corners on this one. They were going all out to make it happen here. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting was all the hate before anyone knew anything about it.
Yes.
50,000 protest letters. How could Tim Burton direct it? How could Michael Keaton be a Batman, Josh?
Right. It was really about Michael Keaton. And I think it's funny that, we're so used to this now that every casting announcement for every superhero movie is met with this overblown backlash on the internet. But even then, people were taking their pens to their papers and putting things in envelopes and putting stamps on them. That's how upset they were.
It's so funny because now we look at Michael Keaton, at least I do, and I'm like, this dude could do anything.
Yeah. But at the time, he was really just known for comedy stuff. And Burton, this was I believe his third film. And, he'd made Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, which are both also comedies. So people didn't really see the potential here.
Right. They wouldn't, this was in development since like 1979, and they were going to do a Batman in outer space take on it. And all these different directors, and like Ivan Reitman was attached at one point, and, Bill Murray's going to be Batman, or this guy's going to be Batman. And so you finally get there, and like Tim Burton, they're like 1985, 1986. They're like, yeah, we like what your take is. But they won't greenlight it at this point still until after the success of Beetlejuice. They wouldn't greenlight it. And then Michael Keaton, and it was Beetlejuice plus Clean and Sober. And they're like, oh, okay, why not? We'll go with him.
Yeah. So. And it was the right formula, I think. So we can talk more about that, though. We'll come back and give our general thoughts on Batman. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In the season premiere of our season on the films of 1989, we're talking about the box office champion, Tim Burton's Batman. And as I said multiple times already, I love this movie.
Yeah, it's in your top 10 of all time, right?
It is. And like I said also earlier, it's not that I can't see that there are certain flaws to it. I think I have a kind of nostalgia for how many times I watched it as a kid. But it is a movie that, there's definitely movies that I liked when I was a kid that I can look back at now and see, oh, this is terrible.
Like
I'm
what?
enjoying watching this now. The Ninja Turtles movies, maybe?
I feel like they'd still be fun.
I think they'd be a lot of fun.
Something terrible as a kid that we liked. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one.
Yeah.
I had immaculate taste as a child.
Oh, of course. The Masters of the Universe movie with Dolph Lundgren.
I probably still holds up for me.
Yeah. So I think this is, I will say, can we agree that this is better than the Ninja Turtles movies and the Masters of the Universe movie?
I have not watched any of those recently, so I can neither confirm nor deny this.
All right.
But Prince doing the music does beat Vanilla Ice's Go Ninja, Go Ninja,
Yeah,
Go.
that was a classic right there. So. Yeah. The Secret of the Ooze. So, I think this movie is maybe the pinnacle of, it's not necessarily Burton's best movie. It's probably
definitely not his best.
It's probably my favorite Burton movie, but I can agree it's not his best. Something Edward Scissorhands or Beetlejuice or Ed Wood. But I think this is the best example of something that Burton does now almost exclusively, which is bring sort of his Burton style to an existing property.
Yeah, IP.
Yeah.
IP Burton. He loves the intellectual property there.
He does.
Although if you look at it, these are all, kind of intellectual properties, that he's known for. What was other than Edward Scissorhands?
Well, Beetlejuice was also an original, story. And Ed Wood is like, he's a real person, but that was not.
So is Batman.
So true.
So
true.
I think Edward Scissorhands is his best movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but I would absolutely, I would believe that. So
I like this movie, but I just didn't. It doesn't knock me out on any in any way other than the art direction. And Michael Keaton is great. What do you think of Jack Nicholson here?
I love Jack Nicholson in this, and I still think Jack Nicholson is my favorite Joker. That I can understand if you watch. People love Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, and of course we had Joaquin Phoenix recently, and those are these much more serious, like dark, intense performances, and they're good at doing that. I think both of those are very good performances, and Nicholson is not doing that. He is, he's coming into a tradition that he's following Cesar Romero, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so I think what's interesting to me too is that this movie at the time was made out to be like this dark take on Batman. And you watch it now and there's so much campiness to it.
Yeah, but and that goes to the evolution of the genre, I think. Because the Dark Knight really was the one that was that or Batman Begins the first?
Batman Begins was the first because it was the beginning.
Who knows at this point?
But The Dark Knight is the one with Heath Ledger.
Right. But Batman Begins, I think, was the one that took kind of the superhero genre into a much darker place than we had seen,
Yeah,
So, yeah, this is like visually dark, but yeah,
true.
as far as Jack Nicholson, like my favorite thing about it was just the physicality he brought to the role. He was very physical. He was dancing all the time and a little wild and wacky.
Yeah.
It was interesting because again, so many names are being bandied about for casting, and I think they were going to close in with like Willem Dafoe at some point, and
Yeah,
then
Robin Williams was another one who almost got there.
right, and then when Nicholson heard about Willem Dafoe, he made this crazy deal where like he got X amount of dollars plus some gross. So he made like 60 to 90 million dollars on this movie.
Yeah, there was some statistic I read, and you never know if this is really true, that like allegedly that's still the most an actor has ever made for a single role or something like
Well, good
that.
for him. Yeah, I had read that he liked the movie so much and his performance so much, he would watch it once a week in his house. So
And that's a little much, but I do think it's a great performance that he delivers exactly what the character calls for in this movie. It's
yeah,
not, it wouldn't have worked in The Dark Knight, it wouldn't have worked in Joker, but in this movie, which is the mix of kind of gothic darkness and over the top silliness, he's perfect. He is funny and goofy, but he is menacing enough that he can seem dangerous at the times when he's supposed to.
and I just think, it's tough to go back right now that we're so 30 years past it and everything, and you've seen all these other dark Joker performances, and now you're seeing, him just dancing to Prince music and painting over like world classic pieces of art. That's his big, get on the Gotham Museum and whatnot. Of course, murdering people also. He does a
Right.
lot of the murdering.
He does like murdering. Yeah, he's the world's first homicidal artist, he calls
Right,
himself.
right.
And I like that too because, yeah, you think about, and we talked about the poor construction of the plot. Like, what is the Joker's plan in this movie? I don't even know. But I like that because essentially, like, he's not a take over the world kind of guy. He's not out for revenge on, I mean, other than the Jack Palance character that he kills like right
Yeah.
away.
Gotham City was like his pop-up art installation.
Exactly. And I
murdering
love that
people.
about it. He's a murder artist. That's like
Yeah.
his thing. He just wants to do weird stuff that involves killing people and like have fun with it.
Well, what's interesting is, we're talking about Jack Nicholson versus all these other Jokers, and I think all three of those are,
Yeah, I like
and no matter who you pick out of those three, you can make a valid argument.
yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm not saying that Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix are bad. I just personally prefer Nicholson and I like this take on the character.
But if we flip to the other side, I think to this day, most people would still say Michael Keaton's the best Batman.
I mean, I would certainly say that. I don't know if most people would say that with Christian Bale. Probably just Christian Bale.
Yeah, well, okay, so now you have, okay, so he's one or two, right?
Yeah.
Suck it, Kilmer, Clooney, and Affleck, and
those were, yeah.
Pattinson. We haven't even seen
Yeah,
your
maybe
take on it.
Pattinson could do a good job.
I
but
think so.
yeah, I love, I mean, I was saying, Nicholson is great. I love Michael Keaton in this movie. And I think he is so good because he underplays the Bruce Wayne aspects of that character and makes Bruce Wayne into this kind of insecure guy who doesn't maybe even entirely know why he's Batman, but he just needs something in his life. And I love all those scenes between him and Kim Basinger. I think she's good, although that character is a bit dodgy.
Man, there is definitely a lot of flaws with that character. I mean, for the second half of the movie, they could have just changed her name from Vicky Vale to Woman Who Screams.
She is a bit too much of a damsel in distress.
Yeah, and one of the criticisms I had read, and I thought it was very accurate, I should have noted it, was had they made her a femme fatale instead of a damsel in distress, so it would have been more effective.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, there's nothing for her. There's like, hey, we had sex together. Don't you care about me? And then it was like, that was like her whole part. So,
I mean, I think in the first part of the movie that when she's introduced, especially when she's just interacting with Knox, with Robert Wool's character, that she does almost have that femme fatale energy, that she has all this confidence and she comes into the newspaper with all the experience as a photographer, and she kind of barrels over Knox, the nerdy writer guy, and she goes to the Bruce Wayne party and she has all that confidence and she's talking to Bruce Wayne, and you can see that she could be this character who she's going to use him to kind of get the information that she needs to get to Batman. And then it does shift. I think, however, I mean, I think you're right about the scenes where she's been kidnapped by the Joker or is being threatened by the Joker, that she becomes too much of a damsel in distress. But I think her relationship with Bruce Wayne, I thought that was strong, that there's some, like, again, the idea of him as a vulnerable, emotional character, if in Keaton's performance, I think it works well opposite her.
I guess we needed a little more of that, because even when she finds out that he is Batman, it's because Alfred drives her or takes her to the cave, not because Bruce Wayne actually said, now I can finally tell you, though there is the scene where we think he's going to reveal it.
That scene is fantastic. I love that scene where he is trying to get out, telling her, I'm Batman. Yeah. And, he can't do it. And he can't do it. And he's just stammering. And the Keaton's performance in that scene is so good. I just love that scene. That's like honestly one of my favorite movie scenes like ever.
That's cool. I mean, I just think Michael Keaton's so good in everything pretty much. Maybe not Multiplicity, but otherwise.
No, I mean, Michael Keaton's been in
I don't know. The Vicky Vale thing at this point in time did not work for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. And I do think, especially in the second half, or maybe just like in the third act of this movie, I mean, there's a lot of issues in the third act, and that is one of them, is her character kind of losing the impact that she had earlier in the movie.
I know you're a big Arliss fan, so you like Robert Will a lot. You're always talking about how you're watching Arliss you got the DVDs of all the Arliss, and hey, Josh, what are you watching? Arliss.
I really enjoy your Arliss podcast.
Oh,
Josh.
yeah.
Arliss Minute.
That's how did
Arliss movie
of every show that has ever aired on HBO, how did Arliss become the one that is like the most like of a punchline? I'm not saying that
it's probably not bad, right?
I've never watched it, but I just think it's funny that if you want to make fun of like HBO, it's always Arliss. That's your go-to.
I always remember after Elton John did the Princess Diana version of Candle in the Wind, they did a sketch on SNL where it was like Elton John putting out other songs of his, but changing the lyrics to like celebrities, right? And like instead of Benny and the Jets, it was Robert Wuhl is Arliss.
That sounds like a great sketch.
It was funny. So,
but as ridiculous as Arliss is, I guess maybe we don't really know.
Yeah.
Robert Wuhl is good in this movie.
He's fine in it, but one I think thing you can point to as a negative of the movie, and that other Batman movies do much better, is the usage of Harvey Dent and Commissioner Gordon and the mayor. They're just kind of there doing nothing in this movie.
But I think that's the point, is that they're these ineffectual guys who are being bandied about in between the criminals who really run the city and Batman who's actually doing something, and that all these city officials are just sitting there blustering and they don't know what to do.
There was always going to be the talk of Billy D. Williams transitioning into Two-Face.
Right.
I mean, Billy D. Williams was really given nothing to work with in this first one.
I mean, but I think, again, that's because they thought they'll give him something later on. And I don't think that's a flaw in this movie. I don't watch this movie and see those characters and think, wow, I really wanted more with the mayor and Harvey Dent.
No, I disagree, man, because like Commissioner Gordon is such an interesting character in the Christian Bale movies.
But that doesn't mean he has to be in this movie.
Well, yeah, you could say that about any movie. That doesn't mean any character.
Well, what I'm saying is that you're bringing in this sort of extra contextual element because that you've seen other movies where this character is important. But I don't think in the context of this movie, you look at that character and you think, wow, that guy is fascinating. And I'm so disappointed we didn't see more of him.
Well, you're always going to stack this Batman against all the other Batmans. Just like if you just saw The Rise of Skywalker, you're going to compare it to all the other Star Wars
Well, but
movies.
That's different because that's a continuation of an existing story. This is a standalone piece.
Sure, but I mean, any reboot, you're going to still compare it to the other versions.
And that's fine. I think you can compare it to those other versions, but I just don't think that. I mean, you could say like, well, the Penguin was in the other ones. Why wasn't he in this one?
That's
or
not
whatever.
But I'm saying if a character is in one movie, I'm going to look at him in that movie and I'm going to look at him in the other movies. And I think he was more utilized effectively in the later movies. And I feel like that there could have been more interesting supporting characters in this movie.
I didn't feel a lack of supporting characters. I mean, you're right that Commissioner Gordon is a more interesting character in other versions, but I think in the context of this movie, it didn't need that. I didn't feel like anything was missing from either of those.
Well, I know
And
it's one of your favorite movies.
it
of
is
all
one of
time.
my favorite movies.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and I think also if Burton had remained sort of in control, that Billy D. Williams would have gotten more to do as Harvey Dent as that sort of character progressed. I mean, it's like watching Dylan Baker in those Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And you wonder, like, what is he doing as this professor guy who doesn't really have anything to do? Because eventually they were going to turn him into the Lizard. And Raimi never got to do that. But it's the same kind of thing, that it's planting that seed for something that's going to come later.
Yeah. What did you think of the Prince music?
It's fine. I'm not a big Prince fan, as you know. I think it works in the context. There's really just like 2 scenes where they make extensive use of it. The art scene, as we were saying, where the Joker breaks in the museum and he's vandalizing the art.
I think that's my favorite scene of the Joker in the movie. Also.
Yeah, that scene is a lot of fun. And I think the Prince music works really well there because he's dancing. As you said, Nicholson clearly loves dancing in this movie.
Did you guys read that thing about it was supposed to be a collaboration between Prince and Michael Jackson?
Not a collaboration. They were going to have Prince do all the Joker music and then Michael Jackson do the romance songs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's like the Elfman music is what's really good. Like the Prince songs are fine, but the Elfman music is the Danny Elfman score is what people ask for.
And again, he had to convince, people that Tim Burton had to be like, no, he can really do it.
Yeah.
But see, I like the Prince stuff because you never, again, when I'm looking at all the other Batman movies, it's such a weird juxtaposition, right? You never hear kind of music that's that vibrant, I would say, or poppy in any of these other Batman movies. And it works because, like you said, it's this over the top Joker character. So I think in this Gotham City that's somewhat dark, somewhat cartoony, like I really like the Prince music in this.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't like it. I think it works in those specific contexts for the Joker, in that scene in the art museum, and then the big like sort of parade scene at the end. Yeah, I like it. I think it's fitting, and I know it was another issue where Burton maybe wasn't 100% on board and wouldn't have used it if he wasn't kind of pushed to. But I think it fits. It fits well where it is. But yeah, the score. I mean, you like the score as well, I would imagine. I mean, it's not. Did you feel like there should have been more Prince and less Danny Elfman?
No, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I think for me, the Prince. You guys are right. The Danny Elfman music. Who, by the way, Danny Elfman hates the mix on it. He said musicians did not do their job correctly, and it was all in London. The movie shot in London, scored in London. Pinewood Studios. But no, I just think the Danny Elfman music is more of a classical style superhero thing. So the Prince music kind of jumped out at me.
Yeah, it does. And it's not the kind of thing you would hear necessarily in a superhero movie now. Although there's moments where those movies use, maybe not in the Batman movies, but certainly in Marvel movies where they use pop songs to great effect. I'm thinking of like Just a Girl and Captain Marvel or something like that, where it
Captain Marvel's garbage.
Well, that's another podcast entirely.
That's one of my least favorite movies of 2019.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, I like Captain Marvel, but I think your point is right. Is that it's not the kind of thing we generally see in these movies, and especially not in Batman movies. And I do like that about it. So, should we say anything else about the visual style, the production design, which I think we can agree on that it's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's this whole thing I was reading about how John Peters, the producer, had overall control of like all the tie-ins, and there was an article in the New Yorker at some point in time. There was a great quote. David Handelman, New York Observer, said it's less a movie than a corporate behemoth, and he was trying to get like a Nike bat suit, and then like the Batmobile. General Motors was going to give him like $6 million, but he wouldn't have full control over the design, so he didn't take it. Like this really was maybe like if you look at Jaws as the first blockbuster, this is that next step into corporate blockbusters or event popcorn movies or the synergy between art and commerce, I guess. So nothing else on the art design but I thought that was an interesting thing. And I also, of course, I like the dream casting, Josh. So some fun names bandied about. Obviously, we know Sean Young was cast as Vicky Vale and then got injured.
Right.
Basinger.
Right. And then later tried to lobby for herself to be cast as Catwoman.
Yeah, that would
famously.
have been interesting.
Yeah, didn't she appeared on like the Tonight Show or something in a Catwoman
Yeah,
outfit? Yeah,
right. I remember that, and it was Michelle Pfeiffer who was dating. Who was she dating at the time?
I don't know.
One of the Batman's.
One of the
people.
Batmen.
Who knows? They were all dating each other. I think
That's
it
what the
felt like,
actors do.
right? And Kim Basinger was getting divorced at the time, and then Michael Keaton was interested in her, but then she started dating the producer, and like blah blah blah.
Those celebrities.
There's a whole weird story. Did you know Kim Basinger bought a town in Georgia with her brother, and then they got like sued, or she got sued because she had like a verbal agreement to be in Boxing Helena, and she had to like declare bankruptcy and lose her town. It's crazy the shit that went on back in the day with these.
I mean, weird shit goes on now with celebrities too. Celebrities are weird.
Celebrities are weird. So the fun names. So we had that for the Joker, Brad Dourif, who I don't think.
Oh yeah, I mean he's not Nicholson level famous, but I think he could have done a good job.
Tim Curry would have been fun.
Yeah,
David Bowie.
that would have been an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think he could have done it, and then John Lithgow would have been very good. I think.
Yeah,
I think he tried to talk Tim Burton out of casting him.
Right.
So.
I mean, that's another thing. I think that even the people who ended up in the movie or people who worked on it didn't realize that this was going to be this kind of sensation. Now we think of superhero movies as like that's the pinnacle of what someone can do commercially. But at the time, this was a big risk.
Well, you're right. Everyone was turning this down. Like, oh, I don't really see this as a real character, or blah blah blah. And James Woods was the last.
Oh, for the Joker?
Yeah. And then, of course, the Joker would have spread right-wing conspiracy theories all over Gotham. So,
which I feel like is a characterization that we could probably use in a current movie and it would work.
It kind of did happen in the last Spider-Man with J.K. Simmons' character.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it did.
So then, of course, I'll go through them fast. The names for Batman. Everyone from Mel Gibson, Kevin Costner, Charlie Sheen, Tom Selleck, Bill Murray, Harrison Ford, Dennis Quaid, Pierce Brosnan was offered the part. Ray Liotta was, I think, offered the part, and then Willem Dafoe, who was offered every part in this movie. Any of those names sound interesting to you?
I mean, there's some good actors there, but I think Keaton did the best job of it.
Yeah, I think Mel Gibson or Dennis Quaid at that point in time, they were both kind of...
Dennis Quaid, I don't know. I think Willem Dafoe could have been interesting, and in a way, Willem Dafoe played he played the villain, but when he played the Green Goblin in Spider-Man, he was playing that character as the kind of rich guy who builds his own suit in order to do crime, but sort of a flip side of Batman in a way.
One thing I love, because we mentioned Michael Keaton in the Spider-Man episode of 2007, is like he's really played an iconic superhero and really one of the great villains in superhero lore. And that is almost all based on his performance, like the villain in the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, he works really well in that in Spider-Man Homecoming as the Vulture. I just wanted to give that production design and the visual style its due, because I think it's amazing. And what I love too about it is that this movie is sort of makes its own time period. It's got like things that are modern to 1989, but it also looks like it could be the 1930s. It's got, the newspaper where Knox and Vicky Vale work looks like it came out of His Girl Friday or something like that, with the guy at the desk passing along a copy and things like that. So, I mean, I feel like this movie really envelops you in that world. And that's part of why, if there's issues with the script, that to me, it doesn't bother me, because I'm so immersed in the world that the movie's created.
So you say this is like a top 10 for you of all time. Where is it for you on that?
I mean, it's maybe in the middle. I don't know. I didn't look up my top 10 of all time list, which I probably is just, a list that I might have made many years ago.
You have a lot of time on your hands.
I do have a lot of time on my hands. I like making lists. It's fun.
Do you ever make a list of your favorite lists that you've made?
I don't, but I could.
I think we'd all like to see that.
I'd be very interested in seeing that.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Yeah. It's it might be number 6 or 7 or something like that. I mean, I like I said, I love it. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I can see the flaws that it has, but I still do honestly think that this is a great movie. I think this is one of the best superhero movies ever. I think Keaton is the best Batman. So, and watching it again this time, like when we put it on, or we watched like the opening credits or something
No, we
together.
got
We
to
watched
a
like
half
half an
hour,
hour of
yeah.
it together.
We were watching movies the other night.
And Jason fell asleep after half an hour.
But in my defense, we had watched a full movie before that.
We had, and you did, of course, watch the rest of the movie yourself while awake.
Yes, yes. So,
but when we put it on, when we're sitting there, and like as soon as it started, it brought back those feelings, because you never know, and it had been a while, even though I saw it numerous times over the course of years. It'd been several years since the last time that I saw it. And you never know if that you're going to have that reaction. I just was like having so much fun watching this almost all the way till the end. It does drag a bit in that bell tower finale, I think. But even so, there's just so many great lines, and just the way, even nonsense like the whole "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?"
yeah.
Which makes no sense. That line has no meaning. But the way that Nicholson delivers it, like, gives it meaning, I think.
Did you have a favorite of those lines?
I mean, it's stupid. My favorite line is Keaton saying,
"You want to go
I'm Batman."
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, when he's unable to like articulate it.
Well, and the thing with that is, and I had noted this when I was watching, like how you could, maybe I will try to write a joke about it. Like you can clearly see it's Bruce Wayne. That's not a good disguise. The Batman.
Well, I mean, and that's always the case, not only for this movie, and not only for Bruce Wayne, but for almost all superheroes.
Right. But the suit was so tight on him.
Yeah.
That he said he had to change the voice register, and now that's part of the legacy of the movie is every Batman talks like this.
Yeah, and I think Keaton does it to much less of a degree than Christian Bale.
I have a number one animal style fries well done.
This is Batman ordering at In-N-Out by Jason Harris.
That's right. So, I like never rub another man's rhubarb. I have no idea what that means.
Right, exactly. Just all these sort of nonsensical lines.
City needs an enema.
That is a great one.
And,
yes.
I mean, Keaton's best one is "You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts." But I think I've given a name to my pain, and its name is Batman, is a good Joker line there.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about the writing maybe being weak, but I think the dialogue writing is good. And some of that stuff is improvised. I think Nicholson improvised some stuff, but it all works. That stuff I think all works.
Well, then I guess we should give it our rating out of 5 defaced art pieces.
Defaced art pieces. Yeah. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5.
I think it's a 3 for me.
Yeah. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
We'll come back then and talk some more about the legacy of Batman. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year and the premiere of our season on the films of 1989. We are talking about the box office champion of the year, Tim Burton's Batman. And as we've kind of said, this movie had a massive impact on pop culture, on the way movies are made and marketed. I mean, it was hugely influential.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, we've never seen any other Batman ever, anything.
No, people nowadays are like, Bat what?
Bat who? So, I mean, yeah, I think, look, it's so prevalent in pop culture right now. We're waiting for the next Batman. And the 4th or 5th actor since Michael Keaton to play Batman at this point?
Yeah, at least, because we had Val Kilmer and George Clooney in the sort of series that continued very loosely connected.
I didn't think Val Kilmer was a bad Batman back in the day. I'd have to watch it again, but I always remember him as not being bad.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that movie Batman Forever, which was the 3rd one in this series. I haven't seen that in quite a while. I remember him being okay, and I've actually never seen the Clooney film.
It's a garbage monstrosity of a piece of crap.
Yeah, I mean that's what I hear.
And even like, first of all, and I think Clooney's become such a good actor and very charismatic. He's pretty lifeless in this.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like Jim Carrey and
Jim Carrey's in the 3rd one. That's in the Kilmer one.
Okay, so it's Two-Face then, and is it?
No, the Two-Face is also in the Kilmer one. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze and Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy.
Right. I remember not liking any of those villains of the 4 we just mentioned. So maybe Two-Face. I love Uma Thurman, but I just didn't think that was.
I mean, there were good actors in all of those parts.
But I mean, I think like Nicholson, and then in Batman 2, Catwoman and the Penguin are pretty iconic.
Right.
So until we get to
until later.
Series,
I mean, those Schumacher films definitely kind of crapped on these earlier Burton films. And like you were saying, Batman Returns, which Burton also directed, has a reputation among a lot of people as being even better than
best.
this. Yeah. And I haven't seen it in a while. I remember also liking it. And of course, I loved this one so much that I was excited about Batman Returns. And I have it on VHS at home, but I haven't watched it in quite a while.
I'd like to. I out of the newer ones, I actually like Batman Begins more than The Dark Knight, but I should probably rewatch those at some point. And I never saw the Ben Affleck one, and I don't plan to.
Yeah. I mean, I am not actually a big fan of those Christopher Nolan films. I think Christian Bale is not good as Batman. And as we were talking about earlier, the voice, I think, just sounds so silly.
There was two? There was two of
There
them,
were
right?
three.
What was the third
The
one?
Dark Knight
Bane.
Returns.
Bane.
Yeah, with
that's not a
Bane,
great
Tom
one.
Hardy. Yeah.
I'm Bane.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's not a bad one. Not a bad impression. Yeah. Yeah. Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, I feel like, are characterized by actors doing silly voices.
I'd like one cognac combo. I'm Bane. I'm Bane. One cognac. Never mind. I can't do it.
No,
it's not very good.
It's not bad. But I mean, and that Tom Hardy version of Bane has become such a joke. I've been watching the Harley Quinn animated series on DC Universe on the streaming service, and their version of Bane is he speaks in that voice as James Adomian does the voice. And, but he's just like this kind of insecure weirdo guy who he's in the office at the Legion of Doom and hanging out and talking about stuff like that, about like expense reports and about the coffee in the break room, but doing it in that voice.
That's pretty hilarious.
And it's funny stuff. So I think that has, weirdly, I mean, if we were going to talk about the legacy of those Nolan movies, it might be the silly
Bane.
voices, the Bane voice, and also Christian Bale's voice.
Yeah. We're talking about this legacy. This is one of those iconic movies that we've talked about that's legacy goes beyond just the series at this point in time. It went into the making of modern blockbusters. And when we talked about The Lion King, how, ubiquitous it became. This is as influential to this genre as any movie to any genre, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it proved, even though we'd had those Christopher Reeve Superman movies that were very successful, this really proved that superhero movies could be this huge thing and could be popular among adults. One of the things in the Siskel and Ebert review that they talk about, that Siskel talks about, is how refreshing it was to watch this movie and realize that it was made for adults. And that was something that no one expected at the time.
Well, I think Tim Burton himself, Josh, summed it up when he said, "I like parts of it, but the whole movie is mainly boring to me. It's okay, but it was more of a cultural phenomenon than a great movie."
Yeah, I think Burton has come around a little since then on this movie, but and I mean, I think that shows that the people who make the movies don't necessarily always have the best take on them. I think this is a great movie, and I think this is a great Tim Burton movie.
Let's talk about 85 through 94 Tim Burton. Huey's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, Ed Wood. Come on.
Well, right in the middle of that is 89, 90, 91, or like that's 3 years in a row. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, Burton's early, and even I don't know what came after Ed Wood, but I feel like even after Ed Wood, he was doing some like amazing stuff for a while.
I didn't mark it down.
Okay, so that's fine. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Burton, I think, and that's what's so disappointing about watching his movies now, is that he had so much talent and it felt like he had so much creativity that he could bring to something like Batman that maybe you could easily just kind of throw anything on the screen and people would see it because it's Batman. And yet now it feels like he's just on autopilot doing these various intellectual property.
I'd love to see him do another original, Edward Scissorhands type film.
Yeah. Although even when he does do something along those lines, or at least that's not a sequel, like Miss Peregrine's Home for Strange Children or something like that.
Or something.
Big Fish I like.
Yeah, it's fine. But again, these are all intellectual properties.
Right. I mean, those are based on source material, but they're not Batman. They're not Dumbo. They're not these massive corporate properties. It's slightly different. It's just adapting a book. But yeah, I mean, in terms of a wholly original thing, I don't know what the last time Burton even did. Maybe his animated films. Corpse Bride or something like that. Yeah. I mean, Burton has been a disappointment for a long time. But I think there's glimmers of that talent even in the later crappier movies that he does. You can see moments in it.
We think he's got one or two gems left in him.
I hope so. I mean, and in a way, I wish that maybe he would fail a few times with these big blockbuster type things and get forced to scale down a little. Might help.
or do a TV series or something.
I don't know about a TV series.
Maybe remake Cabin Boy like he was supposed to direct originally.
Remake Cabin Boy. That is what he should do.
He should have made it original.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. Well, and he worked with Michael Keaton again, obviously on Batman Returns and also recently on Dumbo. And you can again see a bit of the spark there when they work together.
Seems like those two, and then him and Johnny Depp, they just have that kind of masterful, like it's all
although he worked with Johnny Depp too much, I think, and Johnny Depp has fallen off even worse than Tim Burton has. We mentioned Michael Keaton in Spider-Man Homecoming as the Vulture. Great in that.
Michael Keaton, he just disappeared for so long, like 10 years in the 90s or whatnot. Then, I mean, really, he came back. I mean, he had done some other stuff, but Birdman.
Right. Birdman is the other one that I think is a big legacy for Keaton here, because the whole concept of that movie is the actor who was known for playing this big superhero and is trying to like move past that.
I love Michael Keaton to this day. Like, I think he's interested in everything, and if he's in something, it'll make me want to watch it more.
Yeah, I like him a lot too, and I think it's good that now, maybe between Birdman and Spider-Man and some other things, he's back to being a viable presence.
What man will he be a part of next?
Exactly. So many.
But we don't see Kim Basinger much nowadays.
No, we really don't.
She won an Oscar for LA Confidential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think she's good in this movie. Like you said, this part is a bit thin, but I think she does well with it.
So we both agree the real legacy is Arliss.
Arliss. I guess I should look this up. Did Arliss come after this movie?
I think so. It was mid-90s.
Okay. So. Yeah. Definitely that's the main legacy. I will say though, Robert Wuhl recently reprised his role as Alexander Knox.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
On the CW's their DC comics based shows did a big crossover where they brought in tons of actors who had played DC characters in past incarnations, and Robert Wuhl was one of them as Knox, establishing the Burton Batman universe as one of the multiverses on those shows.
It was Earth 89, and then it got destroyed. But that was pretty cool.
That is totally cool, and it's nice that they reached out to him, of course, probably after realizing that Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson and Kim Basinger were not going to appear.
We're giving Robert Wuhl some crap, but he had that thing on HBO, it was like a comedy special where he went into like classrooms and taught history with like a comedic bent to it. And then I think Colin Quinn put out specials like that, and Eddie Izzard put out a lot of comedy like that, and Hamilton has its funny moments. I'm not saying Robert Wuhl
Wuhl is responsible for Hamilton. You heard it here first.
That's what I'm saying, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against Robert Wuhl. And like I said, I've never even seen Arliss. And I feel like it's become this go-to punchline, maybe not justifiably, but he's fine. I don't know, other than appearing on that CW episode, how much he's been doing lately. But I have nothing against him. He's good as that role. He's perfect for that part.
A little needy.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's like what that character is, though, in this movie. He's the needy guy. He's the sort of, gadfly or whatever, who's always bothering people as a reporter. I think we should also mention the Batman animated series, which launched after this and really took its visual cues from what Burton does in this movie. The whole Art Deco feel, the German expressionist style, Fritz Lang kind of thing, really defined what Batman looked like in those series. And those ran for years and years and are still beloved by many, many people. And Kevin Conroy, who does the voice of Batman in so many of those animated versions, I think he's one, along with Christian Bale and maybe Michael Keaton, that people often name as their favorite Batman.
Well, that's only because Robert Wuhl hasn't played Batman.
Robert Wuhl as Batman. I guess he was never in the running for the part. That would have been...
The only other thing I wanted to say that we might have missed on is that 1989 was the 50th anniversary of the Batman character being created. So that's pretty cool that like this evolution has gone at that point 50 years and then exploded into this next multiverse of Batmaning.
Yes. That's I mean, this really kicked all of that off. I mean, all of those incarnations that we've talked about, other than the Adam West version, all came because of this movie.
But I do think it's interesting that we're talking about how a lot of these people, and Sam Hamm, he did some comic book stuff, and Batman Returns, but he really didn't do much afterwards either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, when your name is Sam Hamm, I don't know what I'm saying about that. It's just fun to say.
I was waiting for
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Sam Hamm. Come on. It's just,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Too bad he's not running away from the law, because he'd be Sam Hamm on the lamb.
There you go. Brilliant.
Bam.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay. So that's Batman. And that's this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can follow us on the social media.
And you should.
You should.
Because we are influencers.
And you can get such gems as Robert Wuhl is responsible for Hamilton.
Yeah.
If you follow Jason on
From
Twitter.
now on, we got to do more controversial posts like that. So we
Hot
will.
takes, I believe they're called.
Yes.
I'm on all the socials, Jason Harris Comedy or Jay Harris Comedy. Look them all up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm on goforjason.com. And then as a group, we are Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram, Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, where we constantly, for some reason, seem to like tweets from the Piecing It Together podcast.
I don't know why that might be. You can find me at joshbellhateseverything.com, at joshbellhateseverything on Facebook, and at signalbleed on Twitter. And our producer, David Rosen, is the host of that Piecing It Together podcast, which we love to like on Twitter. Listen to that.
Yeah, you can find us anywhere you listen to this podcast, and of course, Piecing Pod on Twitter and all that stuff. And for the record, it's just the Follow Friday post that I like, but
Oh, so running social media accounts is all about liking your posts from one social media account to the other social media account.
You
That's how
have
it
to
works.
do it.
It's
You
very
gotta
important.
do it.
So, what do we have in our next episode, Jason?
Another great movie, and one of the great teen comedies of the 80s, of which there were many. I think the golden age of teen comedies.
Indeed.
First feature, Cameron Crowe, Say Anything.
So tune in next time for Say Anything, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
And all points west.
We can talk more about that, though. We'll come back and give our general thoughts on Batman.
In lower voices.
Oh, yes. That was terrible.
Yeah, you really sounded like Jiminy Glick there.
I don't know what I sounded like. Let's cut that out, Dave.
Leave it in, David.